Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, the preciousness of time, story time. Give me 1 second here. There was this guy that I knew, and he told the story how actually today, within a couple of years or so ago, but it still was today, his mother had passed on. And he loved her very much, very much. And the guy told the story of some things from how she grew up and just different things. But he told how, in growing up, that it was a regular childhood. I mean, could have been better, like any other person's childhood. But the one thing that still was not to be questioned was the love of his mother. He wasn't feeling good. He would talk about how his mother would be right there. He sprained an ankle, his mother be right there, etc. And how, once he finished high school and different things like that, and going through different parts of life, some things decent, some things not, and how he would tell and fast forwarding how there started to be a time where he started to notice that his mom would kind of show a different kind of mood scenario, and he would be like, what is kind of happening? Maybe it's because she's getting to a certain age bracket, to a certain point, and he would just kind of notice these things happening, where about one time, or maybe a couple of times, he would relay how she would be watching TV, and then she would tell him, hey, the person on the TV or whatever channel she was watching, that his mother would say they were waving at her. And of course, that kind of threw him off because he never experienced that. So in the back of his mind, he was trying to figure out, what does he kind of need to do if it starts going a different direction? And different things would come up, stuff like that. And he was the primariness of the child or adultness from within her. So he was the primariness of her on that. And however, family members were not in the same area, far off, and others that could have been or that were at one time around her life that she liked to be around and talk to, well, they had different things going on, and people getting older and different things and transitions of life. And so things were going on with his mother, and he was starting to worry and trying to figure out what needs to happen, and different things and different conversations he would have with her, and start to be concerned about some things. And she was still able to take care of some basic things and things like that, but he was starting to worry that this might come to a time where he's going to have to probably make some decisions. And yes, that was something that he was very concerned with, because he never had to deal with this before, had no idea what this was really about. Because these things like here are definitely not even talked about, not even a piece of time. And so as time went on and different unfortunate things were coming up from some other people. And then one day he gets a call saying there was an accident that happened, and she's at the hospital, and all of a sudden she was transferred over to a nursing facility. What he thought was maybe a kind of a temporary thing, and then they kind of go from there and figure out what he needs to do and things like that. And so unfortunately, that nursing home became more of a long termness because health situations were coming up. And then the concern about the mood and the memory starts coming up even more. And so the guy was telling me how, I mean, the heartache that he was going through, the heartache, because this was his mother he cared for so much, that did so much for him, that did so much for him. And so then as time went by and his mother's health was not going in a stable condition, and her mentality was going in a different direction. And then he found out that she had Alzheimer's, the memory crippling disease. Some people have a mild form of Alzheimer's dementia symptoms, and they can go through whatever amount of years for it to even progress, or sometimes it just stays stagnant, just depending. And sometimes it goes quickly to an advanced stage or medium stage to advanced stage, and that's what his mother's Alzheimer's, the dementia symptoms went to. It went fast enough. And so the facility was changed over to another particular long-term facility that was supposed to have been able to deal with that a little bit more. And it was heartbreaking because other things were coming up and it was happening whereby he wasn't very happy at all about some people that weren't taking care of business at whichever another facility. But since he was the primary personnel and dealing with stuff, he was trying to keep his own feelings in check and different things like that. And so at the new facility, it was just getting worse from the previous place. And so as he would visit her and his mom, and his heart is just being tore up to see his mother in that kind of condition. And then she would say how much she wanted to go home, that she wanted to go home. And it would just tear him up knowing that she would never be able to go back home to a place that she stayed in for decades. And as her health deteriorated, her mind deteriorated with, and he would even tell her more when he's about to leave, and his heart's tore up and he's trying to take care of different things. He would tell her that he loves her, and she would say, that she loves him, and he would just watch how just things were just deteriorating. And so the different things going on, his mindset is going in different directions, trying to figure out what does he need to do. Because these other type of things that were going on, that he just was trying to figure out what does, well, how can he get some things taken care of on that. And so trying to take care of different stuff, and then go and visit his mom at this long-term memory care facility that he definitely wished it could have been somewhere totally different. But things are going on, and it was just like decisions. And so through different times, he would get calls, and he would go up there. She had an accident, different things happen, and he would see how sometimes she would just be kind of staring, and then the other times she would just kind of be moving around in her wheelchair, and then sometimes she would think she was at her previous work years and years ago, and it would tear his heart up of observing this. And so then one of the times he got a call and he was told that he would probably need to come up there a little bit a little bit more different. And back of his mind, it was like, uh-oh, something is happening. And so he went up there. That was a long drive in his mindset. And so he gets up there and talks to the nurse, and I guess the doctor was there. The guy was telling me that I know the doctor was up there, and kind of nonchalantness, and almost like, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and not being very personable or whatever it might be, or concerning about listening to the concerns of when he got that call. And so then the person I know relayed that the doctor relayed that it's not looking good. Her vitals are going in a whole different direction, and most likely today might be the last day. And of course, if he could have, he probably would have fell out at that shock, but he did not, because he knew that wouldn't have not helped out at all. So after he was trying to talk to the doctor about what he just said, and he felt that doctor was really not talking the way he should have talked, and discussing the situation and its direness. And I guess the doctor heard how the guy knows voice was changing, not to be very happy whatsoever, obviously, like, hey, you need to pay attention when I'm asking you. And so the doctor was talking to him and explained some different things, and how she's really not responding. Because before he would come up there, the guy knowing different times she would be sleeping more and more and more. And it would just hurt him to see his mom like that. He would bring different things up there and kind of try to wake up a little bit. Hey mom, that he was there, and can she hear him? And she just really wouldn't respond too much, make some sounds here and there a little bit. And he was just getting worried. And so that started happening a little bit more. And so then back to that dire day today, a few years ago, when his mom passed. And so then when the doctor said today might be the day, and so then after the shock and different things like that, he went inside the nursing facility long-term room and walked in, and she was just even more quieter. And so he kind of rubbed her forehead and rubbed her cheek as his tears were coming down his eyes, because he was just in shock and knowing that he's going to lose his mom today. Now, at first, he was like telling the doctor, well, can he go home and maybe get something to eat or try taking some things. And the doctor was like, yeah, you probably can do that. But something within him, the God knows, was like, maybe Almighty God source or whichever, however it was, something, tuition. The guy was like, no, he's going to wait around. And so some other people were kind of relaying some things that if you're going to make some calls, this is probably the day you're going to probably have to make some calls. And that is definitely the kind of conversation that is beyond heartbreaking. So he called who he needed. He called who he called because there wasn't really any kind of immediate people around that he can talk to. So he called who he needed to call. And like they explained the situation, and they also was in shock and because they were not close by themselves. They was trying to figure out what needs to happen or try to figure out some things to be able to get on an airplane to come back to the place, the city and everything. And so the guy knows that, okay, he will try to get some information and the person he's talked to saying he will talk to who he need to talk to and to try to figure out how to get some type of emergency situation to be able to try to get on a plane. And so the guy said he will, call him back after whatever he needs to try to get himself. And so then when he got off the phone, he knew something had happened because then the guy knows talking about how the nurse and however else person they looked at him with that look, and he knew something happened. And then he was like, "What's going on?" And they told him that they were so sorry. They were so sorry that his mom had passed, and he could have easily fell out then, and he probably wanted to fall out for all that hurt in his heart to lose his mom that he loved so much, that did so much for him. So he went into the room, and the waterfalls began even more and more and more. And he told his mom that he loves her. He's going to miss her very much. And he rubbed her forehead and rubbed her cheeks and kneeled down his head along her arms and her face, and his tears fell even more. And so after all those different things, and they asked him to step out the room so they can get things situated, so they can call who they need to call to pick his mother up to go to the funeral home. That was such a devastating heartbreak to him to lose his mom just like that, because he basically was the only person around, because he was doing basically 99.99% of things, the decisions himself. It was tearing him up inside, but he knew that he would not want to have changed that, to show that kind of respect to his mom. And it was very tough, especially going up to those times when her mood was changing and different things like this, and he just didn't know how to sit there and handle these different things that were going on, but he had to continue to keep trying to do his best that he could. And I'm pretty sure he made all kind of mistakes, because it's his mom that now when he found out that she was suffering from, or she began suffering Alzheimer's, or was becoming going toward that direction. And so after they removed his mom to the funeral home, it just tore his heart up. And after different things going on and funerals and different things like this, where he was basically, again, the primary person making the final decisions about his mom, ultimately. That person, I'm talking about who I know in that story, was me. And that was my mom that died today, a couple of years ago. And I miss her extremely a lot every day. And it makes me even more realize the preciousness of time. How much even more I cannot stand a piece of argument. How I can't stand this silly naiveness. And when people allow people to play manipulation games and tactics when it's right there in front. The passing of his mother just made his mindset even more hardcore in the way of not tolerating nonsense. And so he tries to do what he can in his own life because, no one knows as well when that person's last breath will be. So the preciousness of life is just that, the preciousness of time. And so many people have no clue about how preciousness of the time that they're allowed to have until usually the last minute or last second. Each person has their last breath, be it the time when it's time for them to transition would be by violence or by natural causes, whatever that generically is supposed to mean. But for myself, it's made me again try to appreciate even more the presence of time. And I can care less about someone's title, even more. Can care less about somebody talking about how much money they have or what they do for a living or all those different other external things. I can care less, even more. For me, one of the most important things is how that person is inside themselves. And they can have those things if they can get those things and not change them, do their thing. But for most, it's not that way. So I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP.